Attack on Titan is known for its shocking twists and turns in the plot. From the secrets kept in Shiganshina, the enemy across the sea, and the shocking deaths of main and side characters alike. This video will be honing in on the latter, as the way Attack on Titan handles death is unlike any other series in pop culture today. So, let's dive into some of the most shocking and darkest deaths from Sasha all the way to Erwin Smith to uncover and understand how Attack on Titan handles death and how maybe it's even better to die than it is to live, if you can believe it. When discussing some of the most shocking deaths of Attack on Titan, none come closer to that than the death of one of the series' OGs, Sasha Browse. Blouse, or is it Browse? Potato Girl, a character that originally was pinned to die early on, if you can believe that, was so beloved by fans that she got to live all the way until the end of the series due to her overwhelming popularity. I'm not kidding either. Sasha may be one of the more important characters when it comes to her popularity, as without her, you could argue that AOT wouldn't have been as popular early on with a more casual audience without her presence. I mean, you couldn't browse the internet back in 2013 without seeing countless Potato Girl memes, and that in and of itself is an example of Sasha's pure charm that made so many people love the girl. In essence, Sasha kinda is just that classic anime trope where the unassuming thin anime girl can chow down in a big way, though her charm would be more than just the quantity of the food she would eat. Sasha had a really interesting backstory, growing up on a farm and choosing to join the Survey Corps instead of just living out her life in peace, but by doing so, it would give birth to one of anime's most likable trios, John, Connie, and Sasha. Through this trio, we would learn much about Sasha as a person, or maybe rather how dumb she and her friends are. But in all seriousness, we got to learn how much of a lovable goof Sasha was with these three. It really felt like they were a family, a unit, and not just a group of random soldiers. They were a supporting cast that transcended into something more. In particular, Sasha, who transcended into the heart of Attack on Titan. When things got dark, when things seemed at their most grim, there was always the guarantee that Sasha would show up with confiscated rations and a smile, drool pouring from her mouth, and all would be better, at least for a moment. She served an important role that no other character could: comedic relief. Because without Sasha, Attack on Titan is a much darker world than it already is. This is proven when the episode Assassin's Bullet aired and shocked the world when Gabby Braun, took her shot and killed Sasha. The death of Potato Girl was shocking, not just because it was meant to be shocking. It was a genuine reaction from the characters in the world and those outside of it. It was almost like the very life of Attack on Titan was sucked out from it, and that's because it was. The heart of Attack on Titan was, no pun intended, shot through the heart and killed by a kid nonetheless. Her death, though, would be a necessary one, as Sasha had to die, and in turn made the death of a supporting cast member into one of the series' harbingers of what was to come. Sasha's death sparked a stark tone shift in Attack on Titan, as without any comedic relief, the series would only focus on more dark story threads for most of the characters. Without Sasha, Attack on Titan gave off this suffocating atmosphere of depression and helplessness. She wasn't there to give us our comedic relief any longer, and when she was, it was only through flashbacks. Though her biggest contribution would be to one of Attack on Titan's most infamous and greatest characters and character redemption. After killing Sasha, Miss Gabby Braun would be one of the most hated characters in Attack on Titan, and to this day you can still see people blindly hating her simply because she killed Sasha. And if you don't believe me, comment section. Please enlighten them with your opinions on Gabby after she killed Sasha. With that being said, Gabby Braun, after killing Sasha, became one of the most talked about characters of the series because of her layered and deep storytelling. Gabby's biggest low point would hit after killing Sasha, being dealt a terrible hand in every facet of life. I mean, for Christ's sake, the horse John pranked Gabby in the horse stalls. Her ideals were even challenged every bit of the way. And with the final straw, her best friend Kaya wished death upon her, and on top of that, Falco would end up consuming some of Zeke's spinal fluid. From there, Gabby would slowly start to redeem herself by realizing the error of her ways and how selfish and indoctrinated she was. Eventually, she would shoot the head of Eren off in one of Attack on Titan's greatest moments, channeling the same energy of the woman she killed, solidifying her face turn, and even begging for the Devils of Paradis to at one point help stop the destruction of her family and the innocent people of Mars. Gabby is proof that Sasha's death may have done more for Attack on Titan than her being alive ever could. Not only was Sasha a signal for a massive tone shift in the series, but as well gave birth to one of the best written character arcs in Attack on Titan ever. Isayama truly deserves massive props for turning a character that was meant to die early on into one of the most memorable characters, dare I say, in anime. That being said, I think it's also important how we view death from the viewpoint of, well, the other side, of murder as well. When I think of this, I often go back to Levi's talk with Armin after he first kills someone. Armin feels that since the other person hesitated to pull the trigger and he didn't, this makes him the horrible person here. This person could have been a better person after all. They hesitated. It's Levi, though, who refuses to sugarcoat the situation and says that he's already gotten his hands dirty and that he should just accept who he is now because there is no going back. The reason being is because Armin is actually the smarter one in this situation. He understood at that moment if he didn't pull the trigger, then John would die. They couldn't afford to lose anything more, and so Armin made the tough choice that John couldn't, and that's pull the trigger and kill this person, and get one step closer to freeing humanity from the grasp of a Hollow King. That being said, Levi reiterates that he's not sure what the right choice was, and it's not up to actually him to decide what's right or wrong to begin with. This line right here is pretty much the entirety of Attack on Titan's identity said in a couple lines. Nobody knows if the choice was right or wrong, but that begs the question, were they wrong? This scene is mirrored later in the final season when Connie has to make the tough decision to kill Samuel and Daz. I was always fascinated with this scene because it shows perfectly what Attack on Titan is about, distilled down into the experience of one character in one moment. Connie has no choice but to kill the comrades that Sasha and John saved earlier in the series because they threatened to protect the hope that they were trying to protect. This is an exact repeat of Armin having to kill someone, but now it's Connie who has to make this tough call. The lines at this point in Attack on Titan, though, were so blurred that it was quite hard to judge whether or not Connie was right or wrong. But what we do know is that if Connie didn't kill Samuel or Daz, then Armin would be dead. And let me ask you, what would you do in Armin and Connie's situation? Would you let John die? Would you let Armin die? What is the right answer? I guarantee the comment section is going to be split directly down the middle. And that's the point I'm trying to prove. The way Attack on Titan handles death from the perspective of murder is quite simple. It's all about perspective and morality, though the one thing you can guarantee from a character pulling that trigger is that the person they will kill will forever be immortalized within the series' history. Samuel and Daz are still talked about to this day. They're just random supporting cast members who only showed up a few handful of times throughout the series, and that right there is something to commend. Isayama in a character's death forever lionizes them. One example is no greater than the death of humanity's most precious commander, Erwin Smith. Erwin's death is one of the single most important events in Attack on Titan because of how different his death is. Let me explain. Erwin's death shows how every death in Attack on Titan can have its diverging paths, the road not taken, and as well, the butterfly effect. Erwin dying forever changed the events of Attack on Titan, as by choosing Armin, you radicalize Flock to become the series' most closest version you can get to Hitler will see, which in turn helps facilitate Eren activating the rumbling. Not only that, but by choosing Armin over Erwin, we see Armin struggle with survivor's guilt and how differently he handles his situation from Flock. We see an Armin now unsure, ridden with guilt and anxiety over him being chosen to lead humanity into the future, putting the immense weight of the colossal titan on his shoulders. On the flip side, we also see Hanji, who, much like Flock and Armin, is dealing with immense weight, though this time in the form of being the commander of Paradis's military. Once was the bright and energetic, and maybe a little crazy, Hanji now has shed these quirks to take up a more serious tone. She's drowning in the responsibility of something she's obviously not prepared to handle, at least not so suddenly. Make no mistakes, Hanji is a great commander, but she's not the right one to handle this situation alone. She tried on multiple occasions to do her best to command the military, but as evident with her handling of negotiations with Marley and the formation of the Jaegerists, she simply was overextended and couldn't take on the task of commander. That being said, I also feel like even if Erwin was alive, he still would have trouble much like Hanji. Because, well, duh. This is no easy situation to figure out even for the great Erwin, who could seemingly handle everything. But that's really the point of Erwin's death. After he died, the series of events and all of its characters would be in some way negatively affected for the worse. Losing Erwin meant losing the humanity of Attack on Titan, which is a similar effect that Sasha's death had on the series. What does a chicken do when its head is cut off? Well, in this situation, all hell is let loose. This brings me to my ultimate point. Death in Attack on Titan is always just as important as life, and in some cases, even more important than living. Without the death of Erwin, Sasha, even characters like Hannes, Ymir, etc, etc, etc. Attack on Titan is a wildly different show. More importantly, the death of seemingly the most unimportant characters in the series creates some of the most important outcomes in the entirety of the series. No character death is wasted, which makes investing in these characters highly rewarding. Sasha is a perfect example of this, as her death had such an incredible effect on the series and its viewers. I've never seen such a strong outpouring of support over a character like her, and when you consider that she was basically just a mildly dumb girl who ate a lot and was a crack shot, well, that puts things into perspective, doesn't it? Then, on the opposite spectrum, you have Erwin, who is one of the most important characters. He dies and has one of the most profound effects on the series. Death in Attack on Titan is effectively not death. It's the fullest realization of a character's arc in every single instance. The ultimate utility of a character is their death. If you enjoyed this video, I urge you to help support the growth of this channel by dropping a like and checking out this video I recently did on why Reiner Braun is the most hated in-universe character in Attack on Titan. I'll see you guys over there. Click it!
Click the video now.